Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
And right back at you in the Sports IQ. Larry Smith here joining us on this fine Tuesday. Hopefully the day started off well for you yesterday. Listen, if not, we'll make it a better Tuesday because we've got some great guests coming up. Jim Alexander here joining producer Tony in just a couple of minutes. We'll talk a little baseball action as we're getting, again, closer to September, closer to the end of the season. And as the experts have predicted, this has just been a crazy race. And a bit later, Derrian Carter coming on to talk Clemson Tigers. We've talked about Clemson before. Great conversation if you missed it last week on Friday with Phil Steele of the Phil Steele Report, the magazine. And, he's somebody that's bullish right now on Clemson. A lot of people feeling the Tigers. We'll talk with Derrian here in a bit and get his comments there from the Palmetto State on Dabo's team this year. Again, incredibly consistent. It's incredible what they've done. Again, we mentioned before here on the show, Clemson they've only missed 10 wins like once in the past 15 years, and yet people think they're down. Listen, if that's down, I'll take it, right? So anyway, that's all coming up. Let's get to a couple of headlines. We have some other stories here after we talk with Jim. We want to get to a couple of baseball stories since we're talking baseball here off the top. With last night, we discussed the big showdown at Wrigley Field. It's a chance for the Cubs to make up some ground on the streaking. They are just out in another stratosphere, Milwaukee Brewers. Well, it didn't happen. They planned to play two. One was rained out, so they tried to play two today. 7-0 Brewers got the win. Freddie Peralta and two relievers combining on a two-hitter. So the Brewers now an 8-game lead in the NL Central over the Cubs. Detroit beating Houston 10-0. The Tigers getting 4 home runs in this night. Jack Flaherty with 7 scoreless innings, 9 strikeouts. By the way, tonight, great matchup. 11-game winner Tariq Skubal. He's on the mound for Detroit versus Hunter Brown for Houston. Should be a good matchup there. Cleveland, by the way, keeping pace with Detroit. They get the win over Arizona 3-1. So the Guardians still just 8.5 games only behind Detroit. Detroit is kind of right of the ship right now after that lead had slipped by a few games. Meanwhile, Colorado over the Dodgers. How about this? Warming Birdable with the RBI single in the bottom of the ninth. Rockies end a 10-game losing streak versus LA. Hey, listen, Colorado, look out. They've won 4 straight, and now here's what it looks like at rest of the way. They must win only 6 of their final 37 games to avoid the Chicago White Sox's record for most losses in a season in the modern era. So it can be done. Can you find 6 wins in the next month and change? Yes, I think you can. Rockies get the win last night. Padres fall to the Giants 4-3. And so they had 3 home runs they hit in the top of the first by the Giants to propel them to the win. Padres now have lost 4 in a row. They're still 2 games behind LA in the NL West. Pittsburgh over Toronto 5-2 on Monday. Paul Skeens, 8 strikeouts, 2 runs over 6 innings. His ERA does go up a bit to 2.16. 10th no decision for Skeens this season, and he's allowed 2 runs or fewer in 9 of those. So imagine if he just had some more offensive support, what his record would be this year. Tonight, by the way, Max Scherzer going for a career win number 220 as he is on the mound. Toronto still 5 up on the Yankees and Red Sox. Phillies over Seattle 12-7. Bryce Harper with a couple of home runs. Trey Turner, 4 hits, 5 RBI. By the way, Cal Raleigh went 0 for 5 in the game with 3 strikeouts. He remains 1 shy of tying the Major League Baseball record for most home runs by a catcher. Phillies now 5.5 up on the Mets in the NL East. Okay, producer Tony has our first guest.
Well, thanks so much, Larry. And our next guest is going to help us dive a little deeper into what is turning out to be a heck of a race out in the National League West. The Dodgers got off to the great start this season and looked like they were just going to distance themselves with the field. And it got a little tighter at the All-Star break, and now it's a little bit tighter. And after the weekend, the Dodgers have a little 2-game cushion heading into the rest of the week. But we're joined now by Jim Alexander. He is a sports columnist for the Southern California News Group papers. Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So, Jim, let's dive into this Dodgers-Padres rivalry and the things happening out west. When you looked at the trade deadline, did you think the Dodgers had done enough at that point to kind of regain the momentum here in the West? They weren't as active as they had been in previous years.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I wrote it at the time. I mean, how many relief pitchers changed hands on deadline day? I think I counted 13.
At least.
And the only one the Dodgers got was Brock Stewart, who was a guy they had before. And he's not going to be the closer, right? And now he's got shoulder inflammation, so he's on the injured list anyway. But I just thought what AJ Preller did in San Diego to not only get the closer that everybody wanted, Mason Miller, but also to replenish his roster in other ways. I mean, that was a masterstroke, and the Dodgers did nothing to match it. So, but that's only part of the story. The Dodgers were 12. They had a 9-game lead, and they spit it up in 41 days. And so everybody out here is, everybody in LA is panicking, as they probably should have been. I mean, they're used to the Dodgers having a comfortable lead and coasting. Maybe it's for the best that they have been challenged, because last year they didn't win 100 games. I mean, they were going to win the division anyway, but it was a little tighter than they're used to, and they wound up winning the World Series. In the previous 2 years, they coasted, and they got beat in the first round. So, you can tie yourselves in knots trying to figure this out, and it's better to just sit back and watch it unfold.
Do you think that having Shohei Ohtani available to pitch now in this stretch drive, is that good for the Dodgers? Because they're going to use him a little more each time. They seem to be. Do they take the chance of the pitching interfering with his hitting? It hasn't in the past, but if there's injury concerns there with that shoulder, you think they're going to baby him at all with that arm the rest of the way?
Well, they are. Dave Roberts said earlier this week that for the remainder of the regular season, at least, they're not going to rely on him for any more than 5 innings in a start. I mean, they did kind of baby him. They started with 1 inning, and then 2, and then 3, and gradually stretched it out. But they're not going to do anything beyond 5 innings, and that's one of the reasons. Roberts said that adding that inning, if it's going to compromise his health and it's going to take that bat out of the lineup, that's not worth it. And I agree totally. So basically, he is a 5-inning pitcher from now until the end of the season.
Well, Jim, let's talk about the Dodgers rotation. They've gotten some really good news lately with Tyler Glasnow coming back and pitching really well. Do they have enough in the way of starting pitching to carry them through into the playoff picture, do you think?
I don't think the starting pitching is the problem. I think it's the bullpen, and we'll get to that in a minute. Basically, I think I don't know if it was the strategy, but you had Glasnow, you had Snell, who was hurt, you had Kershaw, who was coming back late after a shoulder cleanup and then surgery for his foot. I think they baked into their plan was the idea that, okay, by the second half, we will have our rotation the way we want it. It's still not all together there because Roki Sasaki is still like maybe a week or 2 away from coming back. But the rotation is going to be strong. The issue has been, and again, this goes back to what they didn't do at the trade deadline. They don't really have a closer they can trust.
Right.
And during the last throes of this skid they were on, losing, they were 12-21 and lost a 9-game lead in 41 days. The bullpen was responsible for much of that. They had a 4-game losing streak and 3 blown saves and 3 losses by the bullpen. So, and that's something that Dodger fans are attuned to, because in the years when they have not gotten it done in October, it's been the bullpen. So that's the thing to keep an eye on. Now, yesterday, Alex Vesia got the last out in the 8th and asked to stay in if they took the lead, which they did on Mookie Betts' home run. And he pitched the 9th and got the win, actually. So maybe there's hope, but Dodger fans have a lot of reason to distrust things whenever the bullpen gate opens. And I've said it all along. Every fan base in baseball hates its bullpen at one time or another. And this year it's been the Dodgers' turn.
Absolutely. That's like a universal theme around the big leagues. The bullpen comes in, you've got a 2-run lead, it evaporates, you can't get 2 outs, you're walking people, and the fans start going crazy. But that's everywhere around major leagues.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about San Diego now. They lost the 3-game set, but what they did at the deadline really seems to have helped them. And those pickups are all coming through for them. It seems like they hit on just about every trade that they made.
Laureano, for example, yesterday, I mean, with the home run that kind of got them started. I mean, him and O'Hearn and the guys they brought in for their bullpen and AJ Preller does not screw around at the trade deadline. Okay. I mean, he's done this before. Or when he hasn't done it, it's because somebody's swiped the guy he wants out from under him, like the Dodgers did a couple of years ago. But yeah, I mean, they basically retooled their team in a 24-hour period, and they are legit. They are a legit contender. They are a legit threat to the Dodgers. And probably the thing that I don't like most about this is they play 3 in San Diego this weekend, and then their season series is done. That's the one thing about the current schedule and the fact that, okay, you're playing everybody in baseball now. Okay, that's fine. But the idea that you're not playing your division rivals in September bugs me. And I always liked the old schedule where you played everybody in your division in September, home and home.
Yep. And that's the way it should be. That's how you decide a division race. That's how you decide a pennant race is you get those teams, you're in the final days of the season, everybody's the same, everybody's tired a little bit, because sometimes the way it is scheduled now, I mean, you could be playing a team that's already packed it in for the season, know, and meanwhile, your rival, you're playing the easy schedule, your rival is playing somebody who's fighting for their pennant life or their division life. And it seems unbalanced and unfair, but I'm with you. I liked it when division rivals spent that last 3 weeks playing inside division. Baseball needs to go back to that. If you're listening, Commissioner Manfred, right here on Sports IQ, we're telling you, it's time to go back, get that schedule squared away, and get those teams playing each other in September.
Rob, get it done.
Get it done, Rob. Not fooling around, buddy. It's time to get some answers going here. But the Padres, for their legacy, for Manny Machado and for Dano Tatis, who have been the cornerstones for the last 5, 6, 7 years out there in San Diego, for their legacy in that town, in that area, do they need to make some hay here in October to really, make it in that city the way the Dodgers are thought of in LA? Can they be thought of the same way down in San Diego?
Well, it's kind of a different deal in San Diego because really the Padres and San Diego State are the only games in town. With the Chargers leaving, that kind of left the field open for the Padres, and they've stepped into it. I mean, they draw great crowds every night. I don't remember what their attendance average is, but it's like around 42,000. I mean, it's a smaller ballpark. It's vibrant. It's the noise is there. The enthusiasm is there. It's a Padres town. So, I mean, in those terms, they've already. I don't want to say they have a legacy, but I mean they're already set up in their market. In terms of the longer play, especially for Machado and Tatis and those guys, yeah, I think they do need to get it done. whether it's this year or next year. They need to do what they did a couple of years ago and at least make a run toward the World Series. When they beat the Dodgers in 2022 in the division series, I was there that night. My ears were ringing for days afterward. It is that loud. It is that enthusiastic. And what the Padres did then, and probably would do again if they got into a playoff series, is they geofenced their ticket sales. So if you live north of San Diego County, even if you're a Padre fan and you live right on the border, if you're in those zip codes, you ain't buying tickets. It is reserved for San Diego, because otherwise, and we'll probably see it this weekend, a lot of Dodger fans come down there for the weekend. So the crowd is split half and half. But for the playoffs, I'm guessing that they'll do the same thing again, and it will be San Diegans only. And I tell you, that place, when that place gets going, it is loud.
When they made all those moves there at the trade deadline, were you at all surprised about the amount of moves that they made? Because they were doing really well at the time. I know you want to buy a few pieces, but like you said, they kind of overhauled the entire roster right there at the end. They added 7-8 guys right before as a deadline. I mean, that's a pretty huge turnover.
And one thing about AJ, he is not bashful. And it sounded like they had a plan in place. They're going to the deadline. They've got guys that they're targeting, and they have, they know what they want to do. And I kind of got the sense from the Dodgers at the deadline that they weren't all in. They weren't all in on making moves. It's like, well, we've got our guys and we're happy with them. Maybe you shouldn't have been. And this is funny. Friday night's game, and I wrote this. The Dodgers win, and Andrew Friedman gets on the elevator with the rest of us heading downstairs after the game. Elevator opens, we all step off, and the corridor there leads to the dugout club. Okay, so there's fans coming out. And one of them yells to him, "Good job, Andrew!" And I wrote that and said, in other words, what trading deadline?
Right.
Because they did not have a good deadline. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if this bullpen is enough to get it done. I'm not sure it is.
Yeah, that's anyway, we know that all teams have bullpen issues. We talked about that a little bit ago. They all start screaming about this time of year. What do you think San Diego needs to do down there at the home park in these 3 games? Do they need to come back and sweep, or are they good enough if they take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers and say, hey, we're not going anywhere, we're not intimidated by you?
I would say at least 2 out of 3 to send that message. I mean, the Dodgers playing Colorado this week, and I think the Padres play the Giants again at home. And it could be that weekend could be a tough series for the Dodgers for this reason. You're playing 4 games in Colorado, and then you come back down to sea level. And I mean, even besides the whole thing about curveballs that don't break and whatnot, it takes a toll out of you physically when you're playing at elevation and then you come back down. And it a lot of times it takes a couple days for players to recover from that. So I will be interested to see the first couple of nights down in San Diego if that has an effect. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but it's another thing to keep an eye on.
You've been around, you've covered these teams for a while now. In your opinion, who is the better shot to win that division down the stretch here?
I still think the Dodgers should be the favorites because it's a veteran crew. They've done it before. They've been through all that. And, for all we've said about the trade deadline, I mean, it's still a cohesive unit. I mean, the Padres are still working these guys in. So that may make a difference down the stretch, but I still think the Dodgers should be favored. But what that means if they play each other in a postseason series, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on that one.
It's going to be an interesting last 6 weeks of this regular season and a really interesting October. Jim Alexander, thank you so much for joining us. Jim Alexander, he is the sports columnist for the Southern California News Group newspapers. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and joining us on Sports IQ.
Thank you for having me.
We will take a quick break and be right back after a timeout.
Packages start at $29.99 a month with sign agreement. Restrictions apply. Speak to a representative for complete offer details. See Vivint.com for license details. Terms and conditions apply.
Homeowners, if you're looking for the best in home security and smart home technology at a price you can actually afford, we have great news. Now you can get Vivint's award-winning home security systems starting at about $1 a day. U.S. News & World Report has recognized Vivint as the best professionally installed home security system of 2022. And right now, you can get Vivint's home security technology for about $1 a day. Plus, get free professional installation from a licensed technician. Protect your home and loved ones for as low as $1 a day. Call right now for your free home security consultation.
800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. That's 800-613-8053.
We all make more than 35,000 decisions a day. Most are small, but some can be life-changing.
When it comes to taking care of yourself, the most important choices can be hard to make. Like having a tough conversation instead of ignoring a buddy's call.
Or being there for support, not assuming things will just get better. Make the decision to be there for the veterans in your life, for your community, for yourself. Learn more at BeThereForVeterans.com.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Well, welcome back here. A great conversation with Tony and Jim Alexander. We certainly appreciate his time. We have some other headlines right now. One of my favorite college players in the past 20 years has to be Cam Newton. There's some stuff went on at Florida that you wish didn't happen. But boy, when he was at Auburn, he was outstanding. And that school is going to honor him coming up in October. They're going to retire his number 2 jersey. What a year back in 2010, the former Florida recruit went then to a junior college in Texas, comes out of there, goes to Auburn, wins the Heisman, wins the national championship, and he will become only the 4th Auburn Tiger, joined by, he'll join Pat Sullivan, Bo Jackson, and Terry Beasley as the only other Auburn Tiger football players have their jerseys retired. All this happening on October 11th when rival Georgia comes to town. So already Jordan Harrett's going to be rocking anyway, and but Cam coming back now, went on again to an NFL MVP. He won during his career in Carolina, and we're thrilled for that. What a career, and well-deserved for him. Speaking of honors and being honored by a team, the Lakers' Pat Riley statue, they're going to put that up in February. Actually, it's February 22nd when the rival Boston Celtics come to town. So just like Auburn, make sure you pick the right opponent for this. Riley statue will be the 8th that the Lakers have put up there. Kareem, Magic, Kobe, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Shaq, and the great late announcer Chick Hearn as well. Riley, of course, back in the 80s, coaching the team to 4 NBA championships. By the way, it's become a thing for him. Riley, now 80 years old. As you know, he's been a long-time executive with the Miami Heat after coaching them. After leaving the Lakers, he was with the Knicks for a while, then the Heat. And so now he's an executive. The Heat named their court after Riley last season. So, look, Hall of Famer and well-deserved for him. By the way, Oklahoma, the Sooners, now selling seats at their media post-game news conference this season. To buy 2 seats after the Michigan game, it's going to cost you almost $700. By the way, you could save some money if you want to buy 2 seats after the Auburn game. It'll cost you only $576. In case you think no one's going to do this, they play Illinois State on August 30th. Those seats are already sold out. So if your ticket isn't enough to watch the game, spend more money and come watch the coaches and the players talk to the media afterwards. Okay, whatever. NFL preseason last night, by the way, Bengals beat the Commanders 31-17. Jake Browning, 159 yards and a couple of touchdowns for Cincinnati. Speaking of quarterback news, in Ohio, the Browns have made the call Yes, Joe Flacco will be the Week 1 starter versus Cincinnati. 18th NFL season for Flacco. Of course, he was the MVP of Super Bowl 57 when they beat the 49ers. He also was going to start this Saturday in their final preseason game against the Rams. And in case you're looking ahead, Cleveland plays at Baltimore in Week 2. It'll be Flacco's first game against his former team, the Ravens, since they traded him back in 2018. So there you go. Joe Flacco is the man for now. Will he stay healthy? We hope. If not, they've got a whole bunch of guys. Kitty, the guy, the kid who is former Steeler, he's injured, hamstring injury, he's out right now. Could Shedeur step in? Dylan Gabriel? Who knows? Who knows? Deshaun Watson's still injured. A lot of quarterbacks, a lot of guys injured. Joe Flacco right now, the smart choice for Week 1. So there you go. All right, stay with us. More college football news coming up as we will talk with Derrian Carter, little Clemson Tiger talk with producer Tony up next on the Sports IQ.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Glad you're still with us here. Producer Tony is with our next guest.
Well, Larry, thank you so much. And our next guest is going to help us kind of get acquainted with the Clemson Tigers for 2025. Clemson, a lot of expectations, a lot of people looking hard at Clemson with a potential for a national championship run here. This is Derrian Carter. He is the Clemson beat writer for the Greenville News. Derrian, thank you so much for taking some time and joining us today.
Of course. How you doing? Good morning.
We're doing good out here. Hope you're doing well up there in South Carolina. Derrian, you guys don't play in week 0. You get to wait till week 1, but Clemson kicks it off in a big way. Week 1, you get the LSU Tigers. What's the feeling right now in Clemson and the staff about facing LSU in week 1?
For Coach Dabo Swinney and the staff, they treat it as one game at a time, but I think deep down they do understand the importance of this game. They haven't won a season opening game since 2022. And this is their first time opening at home since 2019. This is one of the most anticipated games in a while. LSU has a Heisman contender at quarterback with Garrett Nussmeier. Clemson does with Cade Klubnik. We have Hall of Fame level coaching with Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney. And both of these teams are trying to get back into the CFP and potentially the national championship. The last time these two teams met was in the 2020 national championship in New Orleans. So it's a big-time game, marquee, top 10 matchup. It's going to be a good one, I think.
Yeah, it should be an interesting ballgame. The matchup between Klubnik and Nussmeier intrigues me. Cade made some real steps forward last year and looks like all world going into this season. Was it just that maturing process for him to get him comfortable and, get enough pieces around him to bring his true talents out?
I think so. Last season was the second season as a full-time starter, but also he had to grow in some ways. I think in his sophomore season he wasn't mobile enough. Last season, I think he had above more than 5 rushing touchdowns. He was using his legs more. Also, they added more talent around him. They brought in 2 freshmen last year, Bryant Wesco Jr. and TJ Moore, and that kind of helped open up the explosive plays. We've seen him throwing deep passes to Wesco, to Moore, to Antonio Williams, Jake Brenningstool last year. It's just Cade kind of put it all together, and I think that Texas game in CRP last year was, even though it was in a loss, he showed against the number 1 passing defense at the time that they can go on that level of stage on the road and compete with one of the nation's best.
Yeah, that was an interesting, for Cade. I loved seeing his development. I loved seeing the deep passes. He brought some real explosiveness to that Clemson offense. One thing with Dabo that we've noticed in the last years, he wasn't really a fan of the transfer portal, but he's kind of started to embrace it a little bit, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask Coach Swinney, he says they use the portal every year in the last 3 seasons, but those past 2 seasons were for backup quarterbacks. This year, the most transfer portal players that he ever brought in, highlighted by Purdue transfer Will Helt on the defensive line, brought in a receiver Tristan Smith from Southeast Missouri State, and brought in linebacker Jeremiah Alexander. Coach Swinney's philosophy is still develop and recruit out of high school, but if there's a potential roster need due to the transfer portal, due to expiring eligibility, he said he's always been confident in the team using the portal, going to get a player to fill a role and fill a void on the team.
They talked about Clemson in the last few years as being a team that was down. And Dabo Swinney, all he's done is won 10 games or better, like 14 of the last 15 years. Look, you talk to a lot of programs, and 9 wins is going to get you a statue out on the front lawn. At Clemson, they're going, oh, we've had a down year. How does Coach Swinney feel about this team and his place, in Clemson history?
I think he recognizes some of the success that he had, but sometimes your success can be your detriment at times. Winning 2 national champions, going from 2015 to 2020, a CFP staple. I think those 3 years where it was considered a down year for Clemson, he kind of just touted some of the success that they had, being a contender in the ACC still, winning 9 or 10 games over the last 15 or 16 seasons since he's been at Clemson. I think for him, he recognizes what he brought to the team. And I think the administration has as well. Athletic Director Graham Neff always supports Dabo Swinney, especially in this new post-House settlement era. I think Dabo is just he's finally his model of retention is kind of like envy potentially around the nation, because I believe they only lost 7 players to the transfer portal compared to other teams losing 30 or 40 players. So I think for him, he believes in his philosophy, throwing through, right or wrong, and I think he feels pretty confident during this season.
Being around him just a little bit that I have, he seems like a coach who's he's focused on football, but he's also focused on growing the person, growing the men under his charge. What do you see daily interacting with this team and how the players react to Dabo?
I think they love Coach Swinney. I think some of the recruits that committed in this next year's recruiting cycle, they mentioned the importance of winning on the field, but also developing as a man off the field. There's a lot of programs such as Paul Journey that Clemson touts that puts these players in real life career scenarios for them to grow and develop as a person and a player. But that the focus is for them to graduate, for them to develop as men and ultimately win a championship, whether it be an ACC title or a national championship. I believe every class under Swinney has won a conference or national championship, except for this class that's just coming in 2025. So I think that's a real selling point for kids out of high school, especially in this world of NIL and dollars and things like that, to know that you can get paid at Clemson, but also you grow and develop as a man, as one of their kind of calling cards when it's on the recruiting trail.
One of the things that a lot of folks haven't talked about is, the fact that after they won the 2 titles, other teams started poaching coaches from the Clemson staff. So he kind of had to rebuild his staff. How's the communication among that staff now? And does he have exactly what he needs as a staff, do you think, to have them competing at the highest level?
For this season?
Yes.
Yes. They brought in only defensive changes they made. Major one was, of course, bringing in Tom Allen from Penn State, replacing Wes Goodwin, who's now at Oklahoma. For him and the staff, They wanted more experience and more savviness compared to the last hire. Tom Allen's been in the coach for over 30 years at the collegiate level, D3, D2, D1. Penn State, a former head coach at Indiana. And he just brought in just accountability, toughness, and tackling for that's the emphasis that he's been putting on the coaches and the players throughout this preseason, throughout the offseason, excuse me. And they hired, promoted Ben Boulware as their linebackers coach as well. Former Clemson player who won a national championship with them during that time. So I think this staff is better prepared just because of the wealth of experience they have. Tom Allen was also another outside hire. Dabo Swinney usually promoted within, but his last, I think, 3 or 4 assistant hires were not in the Clemson staff with Tom Allen, with Matt Luke, Chris Rump, and Garrett Riley. So I think him getting out of his comfort zone a little bit, going out and get some people he may not be as familiar with has been a boon for Clemson on the recruiting side and on the football side on the field.
Let's break down the offense a little bit. Do you expect an explosive offense from Clemson this year? Is there some big play potential there for the Tigers?
Definitely. I think just because of the wealth of returning talent that they have with Antonio Williams, Brian Westco Jr., and TJ Moore, Cade Klubnik back with his 3rd season with offensive coordinator Garrett Riley. I think the expectation is for the offense to either maintain that level of production last year or potentially exceeding that. They also returned 4 of their last 5 in the year offensive line starters. So that experience on the line should better protect Cade this season, and hopefully that can lead to more explosives for this offense this season.
You know, in the past, when Clemson was winning those national championships, defense was one of their calling cards. They were stellar. When you played Clemson, you were bruised the next day, right? They hit hard, they're fast, they're quick. It's the same kind of feeling around the Tiger camp this year going in for the defense.
Definitely. I think new DC, Tom Allen, he's been getting comparisons to Clemson's old defensive coordinator, Brent Venables. Just his attention to detail, his accountability, just his emphasis throughout practice. It's just something that's been touted by Coach Swinney and the players throughout the offseason. I think for him, when the open media sessions during practice, Tom Allen's on the microphone yelling, "Best tackling team in the country." It's like he's trying to just instill it throughout the whole practice. And some of the players talk about that's just like their mindset through walkthroughs, through scrimmages, through practices. So I think this defense should be better against the run. The run was their Achilles heel last year, especially in that Texas game. I think they gave up over 200 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. So I think they have the talent, they have the experience on defense. They just have to put it all together, just filling in the run gaps, edge integrity, things like that for this defense to return to that pinnacle that they were during their CFP runs in 2015 through 2020.
And it seems to me that Coach Swinney has embraced the new world of college football playoffs, and scheduling matters. They've signed a long-term deal, to play some of the better teams in the country. Do you see that happening more? This game with LSU coming up in week number 1. Do you see them playing some really stellar non-conference teams coming up in the future and keeping that going as a way to make the playoff through having a better schedule?
I think so. And I think Coach Swinney embraces having a hard schedule. LSU this year, Georgia last year. They signed a 12-year agreement, I think, in 2027 with Notre Dame to have a non-conference slate, and the annual rivalry with South Carolina in the Palmetto Bowl there's always at the end of the season. So I think definitely in the future with talks of expansion for the college football playoff, it will be important for Clemson to continue scheduling tough non-conference games. The ACC is maybe up or down throughout years compared to the Big Ten or the SEC. So I'm getting those tough non-conference games and just seeing how they compete with those teams and not being afraid to schedule against those teams will be huge for them in the future.
The ACC, we've heard about Florida State, we've heard about Clemson, other conferences maybe looking at them, maybe they're looking at other conferences. What is your feeling around Clemson and somebody who covers the ACC? The future of the ACC, is it viable in the long term, or are they going to have to go and add some members to make it even stronger?
I think a potential inflection point would be around the 2030, 2031 area. I just think those were some of the college football playoff and some of the conferences, their television contracts are up. And that is also around the time with the new revised ACC settlement, that the exit fee to leave the conference would be $75 million, and teams will be able to keep their media rights. So there's been talks of a super league, maybe Clemson joining a different conference like the SEC. Those have been talks around potentially rumors around them doing that. I think it just, for Clemson, it will have to just to see, just like a wait and see game to see if they will leave the conference in front of ACC. If teams were to depart, maybe like Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, I think expansion will be in the ACC's future again if those teams do decide to leave around the 2030 area.
So let's look at this LSU matchup just a little bit now. The key thing is going to be containing Nussmeier at quarterback and not letting him hit a lot of deep balls. What is the defense going to have to do to contain LSU's offense?
I think it's all I think it's all about getting pressure on Nussmeier. This Clemson defensive line projected starters include T.J. Parker and Peter Woods, 2 potential first-round picks in the 2026 NFL Draft. They returned DeMonte Capehart at defensive tackle for his 6th season, and he brought in Wilt Help from Purdue. I think getting after an LSU offensive line who's still trying to figure out some things. They brought in players from the transfer portal and some recruits to reshape their offensive line. I think if they're able to get pressure on Nussmeier, that'll potentially limit the deep balls and the explosive plays that LSU wants to get.
We're going to be talking about it in our show right after we're done with you. Larry and I are going to be talking about teams number 12 and 13 in our rankings. And one of the teams you're playing is number 13, one of the teams outside the playoff. So we'll get to that in a little bit, folks. So just stick around and listen for that. On the offensive side, can they attack LSU successfully and make big plays in the offense and control the clock and, maybe eat up some time to keep LSU off the field?
I think so. It just, I get one of the biggest concerns for Clemson this season offensively is the running back situation. Adam Randall switched from wide receiver to running back full-time this spring, and he's been getting a lot of high reviews from coaches and players throughout the preseason, but that remains to be seen if Clemson can run the ball. Last time Clemson played against Texas in the CFP, their last game last year, they couldn't run the ball. They relied on a short game to complement that because running back Phil Maffa was injured and they couldn't sustain a run against Texas. So that remains to be seen. If Clemson can run the ball, I do think offensively, the passing game, Clemson should be able to succeed, should be able to thrive with Klubnik and his talented receiver corps, but you don't want your quarterback throwing 40, 50 times a game. So that running back, how the running backs perform will be crucial to Clemson's success for week 1 and for the rest of the 2025 season.
Take us inside that stadium on that opening night. I've been to Clemson when I covered college football for CNN Sports a few decades ago. It was intense. It's only gotten louder.
Yeah.
Tell us what does that feel like inside that stadium on a big game day?
I believe someone coined it the best 25 seconds of college football, the getting off the bus and running down the hill after touching Howard's Rock. My first game, I witnessed, it was I believe it was a night game, App State last year. It's one of the most special environments in college football. The pageantry of it is beautiful. The crowd, the alma mater, it gets you going. I'm in the press box and it just like it's go time. So, and I can't imagine what it's like for the coaches and players on the field. But especially this game, Clemson versus LSU, the battle of Death Valleys, the battle of the Tigers. It's going to be one of the best week 1 games we've ever seen.
Well, Derrian Carter, thank you so much. Derrian Carter, he is the Clemson beat writer for the Greenville News. Appreciate you giving us some insight into these Tigers. Give him a follow on social media, especially if you're a Tiger fan, you want to get your inside knowledge. This is the guy to get it from. He'll keep you informed all throughout that college football season. Derrian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a good one.
We appreciate that. Derrian, have a great, wonderful rest of your week. And we will be back on Sports IQ right after a quick timeout.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you test and inject daily, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-390-5160. 800-390-5160. 800-390-5160. That's 800-390-5160.
There's nothing more fun than going boating with friends.
We were all out having a good time when all of a sudden, my best friend's hat flew off, and without thinking, he jumped in the water to retrieve it. When we turned the boat around, he seemed to be struggling to keep his head above the water. We all started yelling, "Pull the cord! Pull the cord!"
I pulled the cord and my life was saved. I was wearing a belt-type inflatable life jacket. the wisest decision I ever made.
Life jackets worn, nobody mourns. Learn more at pleasewearit.com.
Welcome back here to the show. As we've been talking about here all month, we are counting down our preseason top 25, especially prepared for us by Chef Tony. He is the connoisseur. He is he's the guy with the ingredients. He is he's cooking it up for us. Tony, how am I doing? So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah, well, Larry, I'm going to go at number 13. This would be the last team that I don't think makes the college football playoff.
Okay.
And that's LSU.
Oh.
Coming off, first of all, the first game of the season is against Clemson at Clemson. And Brian Kelly's history in opening games at LSU has been less than stellar, 0-3.
Yeah.
How does 0-4 sound for you, LSU fans? I just think, a heads-up battle of Garrett Nussmeier against Cade Klubnik. I'm going with Cade. I just think he's the better quarterback. I think LSU is better coached. That Clemson's better coached, with Dabo over Brian. So I think they start the season in an 0-1 hole, which is not going to sit well with the fans there in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. No, you're right. And it's funny that all month long, everyone we're talking to, there's some renewed love for Clemson. Not that there ever should have been love lost, but this is a program that it feels like that it once again is back. People, not only a playoff, but a team that could make a run come December and January.
Absolutely. Clemson is going to definitely be stout. And, going into that opening game, like I said, Kelly hasn't been good there. Look, this is a make or break year for Brian Kelly. His seat's a little toasty down there at LSU. They are not used to not being in the conversation for a national championship. And so far, Kelly has not made the playoff. Kelly has not won a New Year's Day bowl game. Any of this sound familiar to you, Notre Dame fans? Because it does to me. I just don't buy his coaching acumen. I think he's a decent coach. I don't think he's the coach that gets you over the top. And the last three LSU coaches, this is the legacy he has to live up to, is what Saban, Orgeron, and Miles. Well, Saban and Orgeron won titles in their fourth years. Miles won the title in his third year. This is Kelly's fourth year. If he doesn't, at the very least, get to the playoff, he ain't getting your number 5.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. It's funny that, and we've talked about this before, you and I, in terms of Brian Kelly and not getting things done. You put it that way, it is kind of a little frightening when you think about it that way. Okay, so LSU at number 13. Who do you have at number 12?
Number 12 is one of the teams that now I think is going to make the playoff at this point. If I had to bet money, these are the teams I would say make the playoff. And I go with Dan Lanning out there at Oregon. Look, Lanning has shown over the last few years that he is one of the best coaches in the game. Yeah. Now, their track record at Oregon lately has been portal QBs, right? Bo Nix, then last year with Dylan Gabriel. Well, they're at it again. Dante Moore, who was an original Duck signee, but then flipped and went to UCLA. Didn't like it at UCLA. Now he's back in Oregon. So I guess he's still a portal guy. So we'll see how that pans out. I don't think he's quite in that Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel mode yet, but he could be. All the talent is there, and Lanning loaded up again in the portal. They picked up probably one of the better running backs in the portal, coming over from Tulane, Mekhi Hughes. He's got like 2,800 yards rushing, 22 TDs on his resume from his time at Tulane. So he can get it done. And, Oregon is going to be beasts up front, both offensively and defensively. They've added in transfers into that offensive line. The key will be how quickly they can all mesh, right? And if they can mesh quickly, I think Oregon's going to have a pretty good season. The schedule works out nicely. You only really have to go. Yeah, they've got to go to Iowa. They got to go to Penn State. That's a key day. Write that down, Ducks fans. You'll know what you have on September 27th when you go into Penn State and play the Nittany Lions.
it's an early showdown between, last year's Big Ten champions and the team projected to win the Big Ten and possibly the national championship this year. You're exactly right. Yeah, Oregon has been one of those programs that has been incredibly consistent over the past 3 decades. And it just feels like right now, like you said, they've got a coach and a staff in place. They just find ways to reload. So yeah, Oregon there at number 12. All right, we appreciate it. We'll continue that tomorrow. Our moment of awe is up next.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
877-927-3380. 877-927-3380. That's 877-927-3380.
Okay, time now for a moment of awe. Most high schoolers right now are, getting ready to get started in school. In Georgia, they're like in week number 2 of school. Mason Howell, though, has been skipping school, and for good reason. How about this? On Sunday, he won the U.S. Amateur in dominant fashion, the youngest golfer to win the event since 2009 and the 3rd youngest ever. Now, Howell should be in his 2nd week at Brookwood School in Georgia. Instead, he's doing some work for his future. How about that? Outstanding golfer, making history at the U.S. Amateur. By the way, when he does finish high school next spring, he's heading on to the University of Georgia, and that golf team, I'm sure, happy to have him on the squad. Truly a moment of awe. Mason Howell, high school senior, U.S. Amateur champion. Hey, thanks again to our guest, Jim Alexander. Thanks to Derrian Carter. Thanks to you as well for stopping by. It's a Sports IQ. Make it a great Tuesday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.